Hello and welcome to Selcom Basic, how to add, remove, and change names in the directory. Now, for our purposes, we have already created a test site, a test panel. I'm going to assume that you have already set up your panel. If you have not already set up your panel, we do provide a tutorial on that as well. I will link it down below. But for right now, I'm assuming you have already set that up and you've gotten to the point where you need to either add names, remove names, change names. So let's open it up. So first, if you ever want to do anything with your panel, you have to select it. So let's select our test site that we created in our other tutorial and go to View, Edit Directory. Alright, now if you have gone through the automatic interface, pulled a directory, so you've got directory. This may be populated with whatever is in your directory right now, but we're starting from scratch, so ours is blank. Let's begin. Let me just explain to you what you're looking at here. So up here you have your panel capacity usage. That means that's your max capacity in terms of your codes and your phones. Now all panels are different. You may have 100, 250, 500. It depends on what capacity is in your intercom system. The sample always comes with 110 and 100 codes. That refers to dial-up codes. That also is this column here, code number. That's the number that the visitor dials to reach the resident. So the resident is in there under code 123. The visitor will dial 123 and it will call the resident. You can have 110 on this panel. And the green area is how many you currently have. So you'll see that number change as we add. Phones means how many phone numbers are in there. You sometimes get more codes than phones so that people can have blank listings for pins, for pin codes, or cards. At least that's in my opinion why that's there. Alright, now so let's move over to marked directory entries. What marked directory entries means, and this is a feature of newer Selcom Basic. If you've used older Selcom Basic, you may not see this. But this is in the new Selcom Basic. If you're using Tech Basic, you might not know it. If you're using Tech Basic, that's a completely different software. Very old. If you're using Tech Basic, upgrade to Selcom Basic. You can get it through the website. It's just so much easier. So, where we are, Selcom. Mark directory entries. This means as I make changes, it's going to show what changes I'm making. So if I wanted to, let's say I had a name in here and it was misspelled, and I save it so it's now spelled correctly, for update will change to 1. If I want to delete it, codes to delete will change to 1, or phones to delete will change to 1. If the listing doesn't have a phone number, it's not going to be a phone to delete, it's going to be a code. And then if I add someone new, new from panel. If you notice that you are making changes and the numbers are not showing up here, you are missing a step. You are not saving. So this is also a feature of new Selcom Basic. You are not saving your changes, and every time you have to save. We'll get into that though. Let's move over. So here is the search feature. You can search by code number, things that are flagged to send, things that are flagged to new, things that are flagged for delete, name, so on and so forth. If you have cards, you can search by cards. That's just, you can type something in here and it'll show you anything that contains that data. And then you can put, if you want to start at the end, anywhere, search now, reload, that's fine. So we're going to now go to the panel directory itself. And you know what? I'm actually going to add a name before we go into that. So let's go to add new. Add new. This is where we want to just add someone to the panel. So add new brings us to a new page. We start with giving them a code number. Now, Selcom does not automatically fill this in like some other directories do. So you will need to know what code number you want to put in. Now, I'm just going to go easy. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to move over to name. Names can be, I think it's 13 characters long is how long your name can be. But I'm just going to put in Smith J. And if I wanted to hide this listing, so you can see it says hide will show the name, will not show the name, but the code still works. that means this person's name won't show up, but if someone knew their dial-up code, they could still call them. So if I knew whoever John Smith was, if I knew his code was 123, but I couldn't find him in the intercom, I could type in 123. It would still work. It's still active. It's just hidden. Next we have phone. Phone, you'll see that it says up to 14 digits, no dashes, no spaces, always begin with a 1. So 1773, because we're in Chicago, 555-456-3. Yeah, that's a phone number. Always have a 1. If you don't have a 1, it's not going to work. Group number, we're not getting into groups right now. That's a different section completely. That's when you get more to access levels and things like that, with it a little more complicated than what we want. PIN code means if they type in this code, it will automatically open the door. Some people refer to a PIN code as an access code. You can have as many PIN codes as you want in a directory. They just have to go into a code listing, a listing in the directory. So let's say I wanted 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my PIN code. It's in there. Now, if I had a card like a fob or something where the access control is worked into it, I could type in my card number and I could name it garage. You know, I can name whatever it is. That's more of a reference, the card name. The card number is really the only thing that really matters. This parking and emergency phone, this is for your reference. If you want to fill this out, you can. It will not affect the function of the intercom itself. It's just I want to keep this information in here, and here's where it goes. So we've set up this listing. Now you can see there's this future updates that's grayed out. That's because that's a Selcom Premium feature. And you have to pay for Selcom Premium, and we're working in the free basic. So you wouldn't probably need this anyway. I've worked in intercom for a long time, and I don't know if I've ever used this. So we can just move straight to, we know this looks good. We're going to save changes. It is very important. Every time you add something, you have to save changes. If you do not save changes, it will not send that information to the panel. It may show up in the directory. You may see your change in the directory, but it will not send. And I'll show you really quickly. Oh, actually, I jumped the gun. In order to add another one, change to add new. That means change this so that I'm adding a new one. So I'm going to show you. I made 124, and it's for this person. And you know what? I'm going to skip the phone number right now. I'm just going to click. I'm just going to go to click change to add new. So I moved forward. Now something to notice right here is we know that I added 2 codes. The panel doesn't register that I added 2 codes. It thinks I added 1 code. So you see for update, 1 code. It's only going to send one thing because I didn't click Save Changes. Don't forget to click Save Changes. It's just, you'll just frustrate yourself. So, and just so you can see, in case you don't notice that this hasn't changed while you're adding things or changing things, click Finished, and it returns you to your directory. And you'll notice Doe J, I think that was what I put in, didn't even show up. It didn't even add it all. And you'll see Smith has an S next to it now. S means it's going to send. If the S is not there, it's not going to send. Another thing to be aware of is if I add new and I'm like, wait, I want Doe in there, and it's Doe J. Oh. There we go. Finished. I'm going to click Finished. I'm not going to click Save. Look, Doe J is in there, but it doesn't have a send. That means I put them in, I have them there for my reference, but that for update didn't change. Nothing changed. I couldn't tell you why the software does this. If you know, please leave it in the comments. I would love to know why the software does this. But you have to save, and you'll see that that S is not there. So it's not going to send to the panel. So just be aware, hitting save is important, paying attention to your Your flags here is important, paying attention to the for update, because this codes might look right, but that for update's not going to be right. But I'm going to get rid of doj, and we'll walk you through now how to delete. So I'm going to delete. So I've opened up the listing, and now you see there's a new button here. It's called the mark for delete. Now you can, by hand, click delete from panel if you want to, or you can click mark for delete, and it puts the check there for you. And then what do? We save changes, and you see the codes to delete and phones to delete changed. If this listing did not have a phone number, it would just be codes to delete. And now we can go finished. And we're back here, and now there is a D under the delete. And while we're looking at this, I'm just going to explain to you what each of these are. So we know the code number is the dial-up code. That's the number the visitor presses to call up. It's good to be aware of how many numbers are allowed in a dial-up code. So your system settings will be able to tell you if you went to the system settings button. It could tell you how many numbers are allowed in a dial-up code. So I've put 1, 2, 3 because the default on intercoms is 3 numbers. That means they can dial 1, 2, 3. If I had put just 1, 2 and my intercom was set for a 3-digit dial-up code, I'd have to put 0, 1, 2. If I set it for longer, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't call. If I had 1, 2, 3, 4, it wouldn't work. So be aware when you're adding in codes, how many numbers is allowed in the system settings. This is obviously something that can be changed, but it is something to be aware of when you're either setting up a directory or adding things in general. If you give someone a 4-digit dial-up code and your system only allows 3, well, it's not going to work. Now we're in flags. I'm going to move over to flags. You can see there's the SND, that's send. When you want to send something over to the intercom panel, the S will show up here. There's the new. This generally only happens when you get a directory. So let's say you pulled a directory from an intercom. The new panel will have N marked in it. I think it's yellow. And then there's the DEL, that's delete. So when you want to delete something, the DEL will have a red tab under it next to the one that you want to delete. The code owner name, that's pretty self-explanatory. You have name hide. That's if I did hide this name. So let's say I, just for example purposes, I wanted to hide this name. Save changes. Finished. Now they have an H. H means we're hiding it. This is the system phone number. You'll notice that this phone number has a colon in front of it. All that means, from everything that I've learned, I haven't asked Select Engineered about this, I've just sort of put it together. That's because the name is hidden. So it just gets a colon in front of it. But don't worry, it's not going to do anything. I would just make sure the number doesn't say that it's hidden if you don't want it to be hidden. PIN number, that's that access PIN that you dial and you get automatically in. Your PIN number might allow 3 digits. This is the same thing with the code number. Be aware of how long your PINs can be. If you give someone a PIN that's 5 digits, but your code only allows, your system only allows 4 digits, it's not going to work, or they're going to have to put a 0 in front of it. You see they automatically put in zeros. So that's your PIN. Your card number, that's for access control. As you get into bigger systems, which you may need Selcom Premium for, you could have more cards per listing. Actually, one of the common questions I get is I have 1 unit and they have 4 fobs and I need to activate it. Can they have more than 1 per unit? Well, Smith J can only have 1 card right now. You can't give him any more cards. But you can give Smith J another card in a different listing. But that comes with something to be aware of. Smith J with a listing with Smith J, like when you have 2, you're gonna cause confusion in your intercom, so you need to add something that differentiates them. So it can be Smith J2. It may never be a problem. Let's say if you had Smith J and Smith J, you may not have a problem. But it makes things a lot simpler when you differentiate in the listings. Now, something you'll notice is, I'm not putting a phone number here. just saving the changes. Oh, and you'll see when I save changes, it brought dough up again. That's because when you save changes, it automatically brings up the first listing in the software. We're finished. Smith J2. Now he doesn't have a phone number. Something to be aware of. That means this listing isn't going to show. This listing will not show up in the intercom. It's just automatically hidden because there is no phone number. Probably because that means there's no one to call. So it's not going to show up. But if I wanted to give him a phone number, and I remember I differentiated it because once they get a phone number, let's say a visitor comes and they want to call Smith J. Well, there's two of them there. That is going to be really confusing. And it might not show up and the system might get confused. So just advice from a pro, have them change it, make it so it doesn't match. All right, moving on. So we have a card number, group number. Again, we're not worried about that. That's more in access levels. It's a little more complicated. We're just doing the basics here. And I think that's actually all the basics. There is the help page that you can click. It'll bring you to kind of what I've explained to you here. But we don't need that right now because we just explained it. So we have this directory. We like our directory. And now we're going to send our updates. I'll go through sending the updates as well. I know this was only supposed to be adding and removing, but we'll take it one step further. Let's go to the main page. So main page, you're all good to go. Everything looks right. You're going to go to the automatic interface. Now, if the automatic interface button isn't showing, just reselect your panel. The automatic interface button will show up. Remember, oh, and just a side note, as I was saying before about the group numbers, that gets more into these access settings here and access times. But we're just going to go to automatic interface right now. Now, if you want to understand what the automatic interface looks like, what's going on here, I'm not going to go through it right now. But if you go to our video about adding a panel, I walk you through the whole thing, what all this means. But for right now, I'm going to assume you know what it means. And we're just going to do a directory. And here's something really important. Now, when you set up your panel, you may have gotten an entire directory or sent a whole directory. When you're just making changes, and I mean we're just making changes, we're not doing anything big, it is usually a better option to not send the whole directory. Sending the whole directory takes a lot of time. Sending the whole directory, it can cause problems. Let's say you're dealing with phone lines here, and phone lines will sometimes get cut off, and you're dealing with analog phone lines usually. So sometimes the call gets cut off or dropped. And let's say you're sending your whole directory and your phone line drops and only half the directory goes through and you can't reconnect. Well, your system, you just sent half a directory and it's not going to have the other half. And that can be pretty stressful. You have to find a way to reconnect or create or find someone else to do it. It can be a mess. So when you're just making updates, just use the send directory updates only. A lot of people may think, well, I'll just send the whole directory. No, just send directory updates only, because this is only going to send the things that have the flag. So we had that flag under send with the S. That's the flag that tells it to go. Any listings that doesn't have that flag aren't going to go. But hopefully you've set up your panel the way you want it to be, looking the way you want it to look. So you're just going to send your directory updates only, and it'll put a U under the dir, the directory column. There is a second step, and this is a new to Selcom Basic thing. If you're using Tech Basic, you're not going to be ready for this one. In directory, clear directory updates flag. What does this mean? This means that send, that S or that D that were in your directory, if you don't clear your directory updates flag, it is going to remain in your directory. The problem that causes is once your changes all go through, and we're assuming that your changes are going through with no problems, once your changes go through, you might go back to the main page or close out of the software, not thinking about it. You'll say, oh, good, went through, leaving it, and your flags will still be there. And what if next time you come back, you can't remember if everything went through? Or just for house cleaning, you know, you're going to have those flags still in your directory. So just save yourself a headache and clear those directory updates flags. Also, if you don't clear them and you send info, like let's say you closed out, you didn't clear them, you opened up your directory again, you see the flags there but think, oh, I didn't clear it, I'll just add this stuff that I need to add. Not clearing it, you're just going to add the stuff you added in. You're resending those. And that's going to cause some confusion for the intercom. It probably will be okay, but when you have your older systems, it can cause issues. It's really important in this software to stay clean. Keep things simple. And one of those things is clearing your directory updates flags. This is also something you can do at any time. Let's say you do forget and you close out of your software and you come back later and you see that those were in there, but you know they went through. You can just only clear the flags and get those out of the way so you can start programming with a fresh, clean directory. Now, just because I've opened this, you can see I can remove these if I decided I clicked the wrong thing. But I didn't. I have the UC under directory. I'm ready to go. And from here, I just start comms and send it through. Now, I've covered this in the last tutorial we did, but I'm going to cover it again. Now, you see I don't have a modem set up here. In this comm status, it will show where your modem is, if you're connected, if you're disconnected. You'll see that my bar went red. That's because I don't have a modem. There's nothing to connect to. But if you're struggling to connect and you have a modem, or you have a serial, or you have an IP address you're using, check out this progress indicator. This progress indicator is going to give you error codes that are going to help you out. So you see, it looks like a lot of gibberish, but you see here, it did give me something important. It gave me no modem found. Please reselect. That tells me I need a modem. So if it says no modem found when you are doing this, you need to figure out your modem setup because the software isn't recognizing it. Another thing it's going to show me, if I scroll down, it's going to show me communication failed and an error code. And this is really important just for troubleshooting. Let's say you get red and you get an error code. Look for this because this is going to help you figure out what's going on. Sometimes your settings are off and it won't tell you what settings are wrong. So you're going to want to reference this code, go to the main page, go to the help and support, view error listings. It's going to open up an internet page. You will need internet for this feature. And you're going to search all the way down for code 50 to tell you what's going on. Sometimes they're not going to be very helpful, honestly, because it's intercom systems talking to each other. Sometimes the error codes are not going to give you all the information you want. For example, a lot of the times you're going to get error code 13. Error code 13, I've been doing this a long time. I get it all the time when I'm setting things up, or even when I'm connecting with panels that I've established connection with. It's more like a general error code, and it's going to be call disconnected, canceled, was not answered because of it could be a bad password, but you sort of have to do some troubleshooting to figure it out. So if you can't connect and you just don't know what's going on, just make sure you have the right password in your system settings. Make sure your version is correct. And then call your dealer, call your repair company, your installer. See if you can have them help you identify why you cannot connect. And yeah. Oh, I've got to select my panel. See, if you don't select the panel here, it's not going to connect to anything. You have to have your panel selected in order to do anything. Back to the automatic interface. If this goes red, you got to start troubleshooting. If it goes green, you're good to go. That's it. You should have cleared all your flags, and we'll go to the main page, and you could go back to your test site, or go back to your site. Click that. And because it failed, it didn't remove any of my flags. That was a bad opening, for example. But because it failed, it didn't remove any of my flags. Now, if it had gone through, so directory, clear my flags. We're just going to do that for right now. See, it went green. Because clearing your flags is an in-software thing. It doesn't require communicating with a modem. So it pretty much works even if you're not connected. So I can go back to my main page, and this is what your site should look like. All clear, all clean, everything. This is what your intercom in the field is going to look like. And when I say in the field, I mean at your building. This is what your intercom is going to look like. It should match. And you're good to go. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something. If there is clarification that you need, something I missed, something that you think, oh man, you're taking too many steps to figure this out or to do this, you could do it simpler, please leave it in the comments below. You know, we're here to teach, but we're also here to learn if you've got something to make the whole process easier. And of course, like, subscribe, and yeah, that's it. And thank you for watching.